Hello. We are excited to have our 7th Army Training Command take part in Transatlantic Innovation Week and to present the environmental innovation and U.S.-German partnership in the Grafenwoehr Training Area. The United States and Germany have a history of collaboration. As part of Transatlantic Innovation Week 2021, we continue to strengthen the German-American Innovation Bridge. Today, on Earth Day, we pay particularly close attention to the challenges posed by climate change and in working together to come up with sustainable green solutions. As we work to modernize our alliances, we are looking across the government and beyond to private sector, civil society, philanthropies, cities, and university partners. Diverse, broad-based cooperation is essential to protecting the resources that all of us rely on. The partnership between the U.S. Army and the Bundesforst is a great example of how we can all work together. Today, the 7th Army Training Command launches their new virtual environmental outreach efforts through a video premiere about their innovative partnerships helping every day to counter threats of forest fires, help protect animal habitats, adopt creative measures to ensure responsible land management. They are also unveiling exciting new resources, including a new environmentally focused webpage. The webpage will feature videos, photos, and even fun materials for kids about how they are working to protect the environment in the Grafenwoehr Training Area. Grafenwoehr Training Area is an important Natura 200 site and home to hundreds of plant and animal species. We are proud of this biodiversity. In premiering their Earth Day is Every Day video, the 7th Army Training Command presents a look into their innovative work. We will hear from Nathaniel Whelan, Chief Training System Division, 7th Army Training Command, the Forstdirektor Ulrich Maushake from the Bundesforst, and Eckert, Integrated Training Area Program Manager. They will show us how the 7th Army Training Command and the Bundesforst are working together to develop and implement innovative technological and resource management techniques for environmental protection and sustainment of U.S. military ranges in Germany and around the world. We will see examples of the technology, landscape, and wildlife throughout the training area. I'm excited to celebrate their great work, Transatlantic Innovation Week, and Earth Day. Let's continue to drive the partnership forward on Earth Day and Every Day together. Thank you.
My name is Eckert. I'm the U.S. Army Europe and Africa Integrated Training Area Management Program Manager. The ITAM program is responsible for the U.S. Army sustainability of the military training areas that we have here in Europe.
Mein Name ist Ulrich Maushake. Ich leite diesen Bundesforstbetrieb seit 1995. Der Bundesforstbetrieb Grafenwoehr ist eine Dienststelle der Bundesrepublik Deutschland. Unsere Aufgabe hat zwei Kernelemente. Einmal dafür zu sorgen, dass die Werthaltigkeit dieses Geländes für die Bundesrepublik Deutschland dauerhaft gesichert bleibt. Und der andere Punkt ist, die Streitkräfte der Vereinigten Staaten von Amerika in einer optimalen Geländenutzung dieses Truppenübungsplatzes zu unterstützen.
Hi, I'm Captain Ethan Lukens. I work at the ITAM department at TASE. One of the most important things that we do is we're really here to protect the environment of the host nation. We're guests of the German people and we owe it to them to take good care of their land.
Hi, I'm Megan McKnight and I'm the Environmental Education and Outreach Coordinator for the Grafenwoehr Environmental Division Office. We train our community to be good stewards of the environment through our Environmental Awareness Program and educate troops on environmental policies through our Environmental Compliance and Environmental Officers trainings. We are your Environmental Division. Protect the environment, support the mission, sustain the future.
Hallo, mein Name ist Christian Hende. Ich bin der leitende Umweltingenieur der Environmental Division in USAREUR-Bavaria. Und wir freuen uns, eine große Artenvielfalt auf den Truppenübungsplätzen zu haben. Durch Kartierungen durch Spezialisten wurden fast über 400 geschützte Pflanzen und fast 600 geschützte Tierarten gefunden. Auch die Geschichte des Truppenübungsplatzes reicht weit in die Vergangenheit zurück. Und wir versuchen als Umweltabteilung natürlich das Kulturerbe zu erhalten.
I'm Staff Sergeant Stanley. I work at 7ATC range operations. We treat the environment like it's our own backyard. Respecting our relationship with the host nation and the land we train on allow us to achieve our #1 priority, readiness.
Dass die Streitkräfte der Vereinigten Staaten von Amerika und die deutschen Dienststellen, und vor Ort ist es im Wesentlichen der Bundesforstbetrieb Grafenwoehr, eng und vertrauensvoll zusammenarbeiten. Jeden Tag geht es eigentlich darum, die Balance zu finden zwischen optimalen militärischen Trainingsmöglichkeiten, und dazu ist das Gelände in erster Linie da, aber auch der Natur. Earth Day is every day in GTA.
My name is Nate Whelan. I've worked many years with the U.S. Army supporting what we call Integrated Training Area Management. So currently I'm serving as the Training Support System Division Chief, or TSS. And TSS is kind of the program or the division over Integrated Training Area Management, as well as our other live and virtual training support programs. So that includes our range program, that includes our training aids and devices program, our classrooms, or what we call our digital training facilities, as well as our visual information. So all of those programs are under TSS, and roughly we have about 50 people in the TSS division, and we manage also all the resourcing for those programs. So all the money that we get from Department of the Army comes through our command, and then we manage the resourcing that goes down to the respective garrisons and training areas. So the Integrated Training Area Management Program, it's part of what the Army calls Sustainable Range Program. And you can find the Sustainable Range Program implemented at all Army installations. And it has 3 tenets to it. Okay, really simple. The tenets are authoritative information, having the best information, and we use geographic information system to achieve that. The second tenet is outreach. And that's just kind of not just to the public and telling them about the good things the Army's doing, but also just as importantly to the soldiers, so they are good environmental stewards when they're training. And the third, and arguably the most important tenet of the Sustainable Range Program, is what we call integrated management. And that's working with all of the stakeholders that we have. With environmental protection, there's such a multitude of stakeholders, both governmental and non-governmental, that you have to integrate with. And one of our key and arguably our most important stakeholders here in Germany is what we call the Bundesforst, or German Federal Forestry. So the training areas, of course, are German-owned but U.S. controlled, and the German Federal Forestry is responsible for management of both the forestry and shared management of the open areas as well. So we have to work hand in hand with them almost on every project, every initiative. We are in very, very close coordination, and we get extraordinary support from forestry on all of our projects. Of course, places like Graf are well known. Actually, some people refer to Grafenwoehr as the Bayerische Serengeti, or the Bavarian Serengeti, because what you have here for red deer populations far exceeds what you'd see in other places here in Western Europe. And working with federal forestry, again, we've created this win-win scenario where we have these fairly extraordinary populations of red deer, but what they do is positively help us, or I should say the military requirements, because what they do is they keep a lot of our open areas, which we rely on for a lot of our maneuver training, clear and open. So it's kind of a natural remedy, a natural way of preserving our very, very important open maneuver space in the training area, and the red deer population thrives from that. So again, another example, a great example, an example that's been recognized at multiple levels to the United Nations level of a success story of how we could work management issues cooperatively with forestry, and the red deer population is an excellent example of that. For all of our training areas and ranges that we use, not just here in Germany, but throughout Europe, we rely on Geographic Information System, or what we call GIS. And GIS is an extraordinarily powerful tool. It's a lot of people think of Google Maps as a GIS. Okay, that's part of it. But what we do then is all of the information we have for the training area, and that could be topographic maps, aerial imagery, information about our facilities, information about our protected species. All of that information we use the GIS to store, because it basically exploits the common denominator of all the information, and that's the spatial common denominator. So GIS is the way we store all of our information, and then through various means, whether it's creating maps or online resources, we make that information available to decision makers. So they can readily see in a place like, using Grafenwoehr as an example, they can readily see where we have off-limits areas. They can readily see what part of the area is Natura 2000. A large part of all of our training areas are classified by the European Union as Natura 2000 protected areas. They can readily see areas where our groundwater levels are higher and we have associated restrictions on refueling and things like that. So all of this information is stored in the GIS, and that's the authoritative repository. Very, very powerful tool. All of our wildfires, whether they're extremely small or large ones, are mapped. And then the attributes of that fire, the when, the extent of potential damage, the reaction, all that stuff is captured in the associated database. And so what we have for wildfires is a data layer where temporally you can see where wildfires have occurred, and you can start seeing trends. Sometimes you're seeing them on the same ranges or in the same locations. And so therefore we could focus proactive mitigation measures at those locations, maybe do controlled burns or other types of measures to potentially control future wildfires. We are slowly entering, it's of course snowing today, but we're slowly entering the wildfire season, this coming summer. And so relying on this data layer that we've collected over many years, we're able to analyze where wildfires have taken place and then make smart decisions about how we proactively counter them. And that's very, very helpful. And also, again, when we have a fire, we can accurately map the exact extent of that fire as well to understand the impacts of that fire. Historically, everyone wants to do the right thing for the environment. I mean, there's no question. And the Department of the Army is a great case study of it. I mean, for U.S. federal agencies, the environmental programs under the Department of the Army are some of the best funded programs, best supported programs you could come across. However, a lot of our work was reactionary. We were reacting to environmental issues, environmental problems that we had in our areas. And that's fine, we had to do that. And I feel though, the advantage of the GIS and the data that we've collected with the GIS now over many decades has now given us better scientific information about what works and what doesn't work, how best to manage species, how best to manage complex watersheds. And through that better understanding of the complexity, we can now kind of move from more of a reactive stance to more of a proactive stance. And I think that just makes the management or the environmental managers and our partners like Forestry smarter. And what's really key about moving in that direction too isn't just that we're working together, but that we're sharing this critical information. And so we have a lot of agreements to also share this information, of course, between all of our Army partners, but just as important with our external partners like German Federal Forestry as well. So yeah, I think it's really setting us up here in Europe as well as our colleagues in the continental United States up to make more proactive and smarter decisions. And then through those smarter decisions as well, going back to the resourcing, we ultimately save money because we're making better decisions and more efficient decisions. And I think that's a good news story for the Army, and I think that trend will just continue over time. It's also going back to the principle I mentioned earlier, integrated management. My belief is that I think at a supranational level, there'll be greater emphasis on environmental protection. And a great opportunity there is NATO. NATO has groups that look specifically at environmental protection, one of them being the Environmental Protection Working Group. And that group does fabulous work. They develop, for example, these things called STANACs, or Standardized Agreements. And I see great opportunity in the future for developing more innovative STANACs. So there's consistency across the nations about how we do manage our military training areas, how we manage environmental protection at those important locations. And so I see that trend developing more and more, especially as our partner nations put greater emphasis on environmental protection. I see forums like that being the place where we can share lessons learned, we can share best practices, and then we can institutionalize those things in those standardized agreements. I think once we start moving in that direction, that's not only good for the U.S. Army, that's good for our partners, and then that will just provide benefits also to the partners of our partners, right? Because it's not just German Federal Forestry here in the amazing training area that we call Grafenwoehr, but it's also the forestry partners in Hungary, in Estonia, in you name the country. And I can see benefits just cascading from that.
Ja, guten Tag, meine Damen und Herren. Ich bedanke mich zunächst einmal, dass ich ein paar Worte sagen darf über das, was wir gemeinsam mit den US-Streitkräften hier auf dem Truppenübungsplatz tun. Mein Name ist Ulrich Maushake. Ich leite seit 1995 den Bundesforstbetrieb Grafenwoehr mit ca. 70 Mitarbeitern. Unsere Kernaufgabe ist, militärische Nutzung nachhaltig zu ermöglichen und gleichzeitig die Vermögenswerte Wald und Offenland der Bundesrepublik Deutschland zu schützen. Ein ganz besonderes Interesse unserer Arbeit liegt im Offenland. Das liegt zunächst einmal daran, dass militärisch das Offenland, also das nicht bewaldete Land, natürlich für militärische Nutzung besonders von Interesse ist. Dort kann mit Panzern gefahren, geschossen und so weiter werden, während der Wald nachrangig. In dem Fall ist, der Wald hat Schutzfunktionen zu erfüllen, aber für das direkte militärische Training ist das Offenland interessant. Das ist der eine Aspekt. Der andere Aspekt ist, das Offenland, insbesondere von dieser Qualität, wie wir haben, ist das artenreichste, was wir in Deutschland und Mitteleuropa überhaupt haben. Gleichzeitig müssen wir feststellen, dass der Artenrückgang im Offenland besonders dramatisch ist, weil normalerweise dieses Offenland intensiv agrarisch-landwirtschaftlich genutzt wird. Hier gibt es auf dem Übungsplatz keine intensive landwirtschaftliche Nutzung. Es gibt keine Düngung, es gibt keinen Einsatz von Pestiziden und Herbiziden. Die Entwicklung ist hier quasi vor 100 Jahren stehen geblieben. Das heißt, die quasi industrielle agrarische Entwicklung hat auf dem Truppenübungsplatz nicht stattgefunden. Und dieses bedeutet, dass das große Arteninventar, was hier vorhanden ist, erhalten geblieben ist. Und dieses wiederum bedeutet, dass die US-Streitkräfte und Bundesforstamt eine außerordentlich hohe Verantwortung haben, diese Artenvielfalt zu erhalten, weil sie überall woanders in Deutschland dramatisch zurückgeht. Und insofern ist dieses Offenland, was wesentliche Teile des Truppenübungsplatzes beinhaltet, nicht nur wichtig für militärische Nutzung, dass es optimal gestaltet wird, sondern insbesondere für die Natur, für die Artenvielfalt von außerordentlich hoher Bedeutung, nicht nur für den Platz, sondern quasi als Sprungbrett, als Trittstein für das zivile Umfeld, wo sich ausgestorbene Arten, die sich hier noch erhalten haben, möglicherweise wieder erneut verbreiten können. Okay, das zunächst einmal zu der außerordentlich hohen Bedeutung des Offenlandes. Zunächst militärisch, aber eben auch naturschutzfachlich. Jetzt ist die Frage, und das ist unsere Aufgabe, wie können wir das Offenland in dieser optimalen Situation erhalten? Und da sind wir vor 2 Jahrzehnten ungefähr auf einen ja, durchaus innovativen Gedanken gekommen, dass wir Offenland nicht nur mit den üblichen Verfahren, nämlich mechanische Pflege und in unserem Fall auch mit Feuer, was über militärische Übungen entsteht, und durch militärische Nutzung an sich, die fährt. Sie müssen wissen, alles in Mitteleuropa läuft auf Wald und zwar sehr schnell. Das heißt, wir müssen gegen den Wald vorgehen, wenn wir das Offenland erhalten. Hier in Grafenwoehr haben wir ein weiteres Tool hinzugefügt, was in Europa in dieser Form, in dieser Dimension einmalig ist, nämlich, dass wir das Offenland mit Wildtieren pflegen. Wir pflegen das Offenland, halten das Offenland offen durch große Rotwildherden, die wir durch eine spezielle Jagdstrategie auffordern, in das Offenland zu ziehen, um dort ihre Esung aufzunehmen und die wir im Wald weniger zulassen. Und dieses haben wir wissenschaftlich untersucht und haben dabei festgestellt, dass man Rotwild lenken kann. Unsere Strategie heißt der gelenkte Hirsch, gut für das Militär und gut für die Artenvielfalt im Offenland. Das war unsere Strategie, die wir etwa vor 20 Jahren begonnen haben. Und wir haben jetzt eine wissenschaftliche Überprüfung und können klar feststellen, das, was wir als Ziel anvisiert haben, was wir vermutet haben, dass das Tool Rotwild zur Offenhaltung der Landschaft ein sehr wirksames Tool ist, dass es wirtschaftlich ist, es spart erhebliche Kosten. In weiten Teilen des Übungsplatzes das Einzige, was möglich ist, weil eine mechanische Pflege aufgrund von Blindgängergefahr und anderen Dingen nicht machbar ist. Und das ist besonders bemerkenswert, gleichzeitig herausragende positive Wirkungen für den Naturschutz, für die Artenvielfalt, für das Arteninventar hat. Und einen ähnlichen Erfolg könnte man erzielen mit Haustieren. Haustiere würde aber bedeuten, dass diese Tiere gehütet werden müssen. Und wenn die Haustiere auf einer Schießbahn sind, dann können die Soldaten dort keine militärischen Übungen machen. Und das wäre natürlich schlecht bei einem Übungsplatz, der intensiv genutzt wird. Das heißt, wir haben ein System gemeinsam erfunden, was sowohl den militärischen Zielen als auch den Zielen des Naturschutzes als auch wirtschaftlichen Zielen optimal dient. Das haben wir gemeinsam gefunden und es hat mittlerweile große Anerkennung gefunden und führte letztendlich auch dazu, dass wir ausgezeichnet wurden als Projekt UN-Dekade biologische Vielfalt. Ein Beispiel, was auf einem speziellen Weg biologische Vielfalt absichert. Gleichzeitig haben wir schon vor einer Reihe von Jahren auch für dieses Vorhaben eine Anerkennung vom Bund bayerischer Steuerzahler erhalten, der auch schon vor Jahren festgestellt hat, dass das ein Verfahren ist, was auch Kosten im erheblichen Umfang spart. Und insofern sind wir glücklich über diese Auszeichnung. Und wir werden diesen Weg weitergehen. Es ist ein sehr spezieller Weg, aber es ist ein Erfolgsweg für alle Beteiligten.
Hello, my name is Eckert with the U.S. Army Europe and Africa Integrated Training Area Management Program, also known as the ITAM program. The ITAM program implements geospatial technology into our daily work processes. And one element of the geospatial technology that we use heavily is remote sensing. Remote sensing is the collection of data from above, either through satellite, airplanes, UAV or drones, platforms, to understand the phenomenon that's happening on the surface of the Earth. For training management, for example, we use satellites that collect imagery over our training area every single day. We use that information to understand where the land has been changed or disturbed through our training exercise. And then what we do is we make our investments into improving those lands. Up-and-coming technology in the remote sensing community is light detection and ranging, also known as LiDAR. And LiDAR is a laser scan of the surface of the Earth, which provides us with an information on elevation of all features which are found within our environment. For example, we can determine the heights of trees, the heights of the surface of the ground, the understory of a forest, and we can see a lot of phenomena which is not currently available from just looking at a normal image of the Earth, such as Google Earth's imagery maps. So the power of the LiDAR is the ability to penetrate through the vegetation to get accurate understanding of the surface of the Earth. The data that we've collected here in Grafenwoehr and Hohenfels training areas is 30 laser points per square meter, which allows us to provide a survey level accurate terrain model to 25 centimeters across all of our installations. Additionally, this LiDAR allows us to build out our range surface danger zones. And the new technology that's in the range community today is 3D surface danger zones. So it allows us to accurately predict the trajectory of a bullet and then accurately predict what would be the ricochet impact on that bullet, so that we ensure that this life and safety of all communities in our community around Grafenwoehr and Hohenfels training area, that we implement the best practices to protect life and safety, so that we never have a bullet go astray. Very important aspect to this LiDAR is cultural resources. In most of our military training areas, or most of the military training areas throughout Europe, they have a lot of historic communities. In Grafenwoehr alone, there's a handful of old communities that were removed back in the early 1900s. And we can use the LiDAR to see the foundations and identify where those communities were at. And then that allows our folks, or that allows our team from archaeologists and environmental protection and cultural resource protection managers to accurately depict where those locations are at. And that allows us from the Army to protect those areas and ensure that we're not impacting cultural resources from our host nations. Other locations, we've collected this LiDAR data in 22 different installations throughout Europe, namely in the Atlantic Resolve footprint. But it allows us to provide this information to our host nations and allow them to understand a better understanding of their training areas, while at the same time allows us to prepare how we can be good stewards while we're training on those locations. From my perspective, the 7th Army Training Command ITAM program is uniquely positioned to work directly with geospatial teams and range teams, and then to identify and map out these training areas. And without the ITAM program, and while the 7ATC being here, a lot of these areas would not have adequate information, or would not have the level of information that they now have today. Additionally, we bring up the concept of training area sustainment with a lot of military range officers, to allow them to start thinking about these ideas of how can we train an environment which addresses environmental sustainability and also the military requirements as one. And I really feel that the ITAM program from the 7th Army Training Command is a leader in innovation, is a leader in developing environmental sustainability, not just for the U.S. Army training areas, but also other training areas in Eastern Europe, especially in the Atlantic Resolve footprint.